Greetings to you all. Now, I hope you all had a great New Year's. It's an interesting holiday that really switched, and found its own true identity sometime during the 20th century. Now, New Year's, it's actually one of the oldest of the holidays still celebrated, but the exact date and nature of the festivities has changed over time. It originates thousands of years ago in ancient Babylon, celebrated as an 11-day festival on the first day of spring. Now, during this time, many cultures used the sun and the moon cycle to decide the first day of the year. The Chinese and the Hebrew calendars still follow a lunar cycle, while the Persian world has fixed the spring equinox as Nowruz, New Year's. But it was the Romans and the advent of the Julian calendar which saw January 1st become a common day of celebration. But it followed strictly on religious lines. Now, originally a pagan holiday, Christianity celebrated it as Circumcision Day, since that would be the day baby Jesus was circumcised. But perhaps Hallmark had a difficult time selling Circumcision Day cards, so it became the day we now celebrate. A time of nationality, relationships, introspection, and fun, and not a religious festival anymore. Anyhow, regardless of what or how you celebrate, I hope yours was great. And congratulations go to Claudia, the fantastic artist who designed our webpage and logos and recreated the Urim and Thummim for our site on the birth of her son Arthur, beautiful baby brother for Yolanda. And at the same time, our deepest sympathies go to Shelley on the loss of her father Jerry, a kind, compassionate, and caring soul, a veteran whose family and their well-being stood above all for him. God full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant perfect rest on the wings of your divine presence, the lofty heights of the holy, pure, who shine as the brightness of the heavens. To the soul of Jerry Lynch, who's gone to his eternal rest, as all his family and friends pray for the elevation of his soul. His resting place shall be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore the Master of Mercy will care for him under the protection of his wings for all time, and bind his soul in the bond of everlasting life. Special thanks also go to Harvey for sending those old but fantastic Jewish jokes. Now, I know you're not supposed to like stereotype humor, but it is somewhat acceptable if you belong to the stereotype. The things we can say about ourselves are different than the things others can say about us. And I'm going to share a couple of them with you. Now, the Harvard School of Medicine did a study of why Jewish women like Chinese food so much. The study revealed that this is due to the fact that wonton, spelled backwards, is not now. Question: what's the difference between a Rottweiler and a Jewish mother? Eventually the Rottweiler lets go. And finally, have you seen the newest Jewish American princess horror movie? It's called Debbie Does Dishes. Now, are those not great stereotypical jokes? Thank you, Arve, and I'm sure many of you will think it's disgusting that I even repeated them. Now, there were some simply fascinating comments on Moses and his history, and about several of the theories regarding his origins, his nationality, and comments about evidence or lack thereof for a mass exodus of people, either physical or via historical writing. Hey, just as there's no written history of Jesus by people who wrote history at the time, it does not affect people's belief systems, and it does not mean it did or did not happen as we imagine. Really, the question is, what difference does it make what Moses' nationality was? Is not what is important what he did. He brought the gift of freedom to man. What a gift that is. He brought what we believe was the first formal system of monotheism, regardless of what we have done with and to it. He brought ethics. He brought law. He brought great spiritual understanding to humanity. And I think we all agree that he did not have horns, as Michelangelo's statue suggests, and we will talk about that great mistranslation when the time comes. And a number of people really took to the one-sentence summary, the one that said, this is the story of the true son, Moses, who introduces the force that causes everything to be, Yahweh, to all humanity, so that everyone who struggles with God, Israel, can be free of the degradation of nameless fears, Pharaoh, that keep them constrained or imprisoned, Mitzrayim or Egypt. And they suggested they actually could look at the book of Exodus and even much more of the rest of the Torah differently, based on those few words. Now, as Bob Dylan sings, most of the time, it's well understood, most of the time, I wouldn't change it if I could. I can make it all match up. I can hold my own. I can deal with the situation right down to the bone. We're all about to examine a situation that changed the course of history. Well, this is it. This is it. Make no mistake where you are. This is it. Your backs to the corner. And we will see two combatants in their respective corners. In one corner, God, and in the other, Pharaoh. And this was never designed to be a fair fight. Va'era, and I appeared. Now this is a book in a parsha that speaks to large messages. It speaks to God's introduction to humanity. Maybe someone should have reminded him or her that you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. It speaks to freedom from fear, the emotion that can rob you of the one thing you never recover, time. And it speaks to the ethics and morals of how we all live together. Now, as in the past, you will notice inconsistencies in story blending as ancient sources come together in the edited version of the Exodus. You see how Aaron goes from being Moses' Levite or priestly brother to being his real brother. You see names still remain a key component. And as the parsha opens, God says in Exodus 6:3, "And I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as El Shaddai, and I was not known to them by my name, Yahweh, he who causes to be." And yet we have seen that name. We've actually seen it several times. Now, in the Noahic covenant, God is called Elohim. In the Abrahamic covenant, God is known as El Shaddai. But the covenant that was made with the generation at Sinai, the great epiphany, will be with the use of the name Yahweh. Here is the book of names. Do not let the name take away from the deed, as with the name of Moses. Do not let these take away from the incredible story of freedom. Now, you may also see political posturing being put in place. We're told Aaron marries the sister of the chieftain of the tribe of Judah. And it's noteworthy that the priestly and political elite marry, because this suggests that such marriages occurred later between the royal and high priestly families of Israel. But this week begins the story of the Great Plagues. One of the most well-known of all Bible stories, a celestial throwback to the creation myths, laying the moral foundation that good overcomes bad, love overcomes hate, freedom is an unalienable right, and the power of right is unstoppable. And in all this, a foundational structure of the Bible will be established. It is the cornerstone of Israelite faith, that God has proven his divinity and his special attachment to Israel by the dramatic act of liberating the people from Egyptian slavery. It is a tale believed the world over, but one with no kernel of evidence. Now, some modern scholars, arguing from the silence of Egyptian sources on any Hebrew slave population, have raised doubts about whether the Hebrews were ever in Egypt. Again, what difference does it make? It's what does the story represent? And it begins with one of the strangest sets of instructions. And it lays out what will take place. Exodus 7:1. Vayomer Yahweh el Moshe re'eh natatika Elohim leparo. And the Lord said to Moses, "See, I have set you as a god to Pharaoh. And Aaron your brother will be your prophet. You it is who will speak all that I charge you. And he will send off the Israelites from his land. And I, on my part, shall harden Pharaoh's heart, that I may multiply my signs and my portents in the land of Egypt, and Pharaoh will not heed you." Moses will be God to Pharaoh. Aaron will speak as his prophet. God will harden Pharaoh's heart so he will not let the people go. That wasn't the point, to let the people go. So why will God stop it? Well, we all thought that was what this was about. This is what he promised to do. And I'll harden Pharaoh's heart, and Pharaoh won't listen to you. Now, do not forget, this story is actually the story about God becoming known to all of man. And this is how he chooses to be known. So without Pharaoh's resistance, God would not have the opportunity to deploy his great wonders, and so demonstrate his insuperable power in history and the emptiness of the power attributed to the gods of Egypt. I don't know, my friends. I really have a hard time with God needing to exert great destruction and cruelty in order to make an impression. Now, his method of introduction is the plagues. And there's lots of commentaries on them. And look for pairs. 2 involving the Nile, 2 plagues of insects, 2 epidemics affecting beasts and humans, respectively, 2 plagues devastating the crops. and darkness paired with the death of the firstborn. Now they also match up with the order of creation, and you can read an innumerable selection of essays about them, and they're all pretty good. We think the story is about freeing the slaves. It's far more than that. It is about freeing yourself from what enslaves you. That is Pharaoh. And it is about freeing yourself to worship as you will. Not according to dogma, not according to what other people say, but it's what appeals to you. Now, Moses' demand was not simply freedom for a people. It was the right to go on a 3-day journey to worship God. Now, to some, that was simply more deception because the people were never going to come back. To others, it's a story of religious or spiritual tolerance and acceptance. And to others, it is still only about the call of personal freedom. All are a part of this. There's going to be a deal struck. God says in Exodus 6:7, I shall take you to me as a people, and I shall become your God. And you'll know that I am Yahweh, your God, who is bringing you out from under Egypt's burdens. There's the deal. I'll take you from Egypt so you can serve me. And everything will be prefaced from this point forward by God's referencing everything to the freedom from Egypt, never from creation. Now, at the advent of the first plague, the bloody Nile in Exodus 7:17, we see everything that is going to happen. The Lord said, by this you'll know that I am Yahweh. Now, this is the story of the introduction of the deity by name to the world. So this statement can be understood not only as establishing the existence of the named deity to Pharaoh, but also as establishing what the name conveys. Remember, names have meaning, and therefore it is like God saying, by this you'll know that I am the one who causes being. What a fantastic statement. And so it begins. The Nile turns bloody. For 7 days there'll be no water. Fish die, everything stinks. That's a great start. The two life force fluids, one of earth, of God and creation, water. The first separation was water from above, from water below. Blood. The life force of man, the one true forbidden food. Next we have frogs up out of the water, and they'll go everywhere, and when it stops they die and it stinks. Notice, my friends, at this point Pharaoh's ready to let the people go and sacrifice to God, but he's still not allowed to do so. God keeps saying, so that you will know that I am the one who causes being in the land. The unsaid name in the book of names, we have forgotten its meaning over the years. Now, the third plague is lice, like dust in man and beast. Fourth is the horde, but there will be no horde in Goshen, to show the Lord separates and controls. Another reminder that creation was a series of separations. And believe it or not, this is actually one of the most contentious of the plagues, because the Hebrew term arov occurs only here. And the only plausible meaning is from the verbal root that means to mix. Now, some medieval commentators imagine this as a mingling of sundry beasts of prey. But this seems really unlikely because, as verse 27 makes clear, the arov has infested the Egyptians rather than torn them limb from limb. And not one remained suggests minuscule constituents of the horde. So a plague of infuriatingly poisonous insects also makes a much better pair with the preceding plague. Though I hear dog action. The King James Version, swarm of flies, is actually a pretty good guess. We are also told that the land was ravaged. And this indication of general devastation suggests that the second of the two plagues of insects is far more intense than the first. Now, the fifth plague was pestilence of livestock, camels, cattle, sheep, but not against Israel's. And notice, friends, it says camels, and we have already discussed that camels were not in use in Egypt at the time. Exodus 9:5. Tomorrow the Lord will do this thing in the land, and the Lord did this thing on the next day, and all the livestock of Egypt died. But of the livestock of Israel, not one died. Now the plagues are more specific. A time is being called, and it is an immediate result. Tomorrow, boom. And notice it says all the livestock of Egypt died. That's not quite true, as you will see in just the next plague. Now the sixth plague creates visions of the past and visions of the future. Soot from the kiln or furnace becoming burning boils on man and beast. That brings to mind the kilns or furnaces of Nazi Germany. A boil on humanity. The black dust from the furnace turning into broadcast contamination. Just the sheer mention of a furnace is ominous, because the only use of the word until now was to describe the smoke of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now it comes again as a harbinger of something awful. And it will be used even one more time, but in connection with God's descent onto Mount Sinai. There it will still be frightening, but it will be transformed from something ominous into something reflecting the closest that God ever comes to human community in the Bible. And then the word will never occur again in the Bible. Now what this means is humans must overcome their fear in order to come close to the divine. Have we done that yet? We can do it all as individuals, whether we do it as a people or not. And the Lord toughened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not heed them, just as the Lord had spoken to Moses. We will see several times that Pharaoh was willing, and the Lord toughened Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh, the living God, was nothing more than a puppet that had no choice. We may think we are all kinds of things. The danger of ego. Now ask anyone about the story. Hey, every child knows the story. Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go," and Pharaoh says no. So God sends the 10 plagues in order to punish the Egyptians for enslaving the Israelites. And because good and God triumph over evil, the people leave. And God gives them the 10 commandments, the cornerstone of how we live our lives still to this day. Now that plays a little differently than what we read. Why? We are reminded again and again, look in Exodus 9:16, so as to show you my power, and so that my name will be told through all the earth. Wow, how sad. All that suffering, all that destruction, all that negativity. For what? Is that the only way we can learn? The Exodus story is conceived as an establishing of the credentials of the God of Israel for all humankind. Hence his awesome power has to be demonstrated in one plague after another. And Pharaoh's repeated resistance is a required condition of that demonstration. It's locked in place from the beginning. There could be no winner. Humanity would truly suffer. And it is continued to as we wreak havoc in the name of God. God don't make promises that he don't keep. You got some big dreams, baby, but in order to dream, you got to still be asleep. When you going to wake up? Now our 7th and final plague for today is hail, unlike any that has ever been seen. And there was very heavy hail, with fire flashing in the midst of the hail, the like of which there had not been seen in all the land of Egypt from the time it became a nation. Now that's a long time even then. Remember, thunder and lightning are the characteristic weapons of the sky god. The raining down of the celestial fire also sets up yet another correspondence with the story of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And Pharaoh sent and called to Moses and to Aaron and said to them, "I have offended this time. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Entreat the Lord and no more of God's thunder and hail, and let me send you off. You shall not continue to stay." So once again we read, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not send off the Israelites, just as the Lord had spoken through Moses. Now when I read this parsha, my friends, I think of Flip Wilson and how he created a national catchphrase with, "The devil made me do it." Except in this case, Pharaoh could easily say, "God made me do it." And he did, and no one is going to laugh. The world is sacred, my friends. It says everything in it. Express your gratitude. Light a candle. Make a wish. Celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free. Be free. Honor your freedom. Be well. Be happy. Be blessed. Share and honor the light, and all who live in the light continue to shine. Continue to send everybody you know goodwill and love, and pray for peace and freedom for everyone, an end to terror and hatred. Remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together. We celebrate each other. We love each other. We share this ride together, men and women equally. Send out love, not fear. Send out peace, harmony, good healing to all who need it. And please do learn to forgive and learn to love. Follow the call of Exodus, the call of freedom. The journey is yours to enjoy. Remember, the American slaves of the Civil War understood they were Israel, and the slave master was Egypt. And so they sung, "When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses. way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. Friends, you can get it too. You are Israel. Who is your Pharaoh? Don't forget, Moses was 80 when he was sent to speak to Pharaoh. It is never too late to face your fears and be free. Bless you all. Have a fantastic week, a week of love and healing and thanks and peace. The light is increasing in your life, so keep lighting the lights of miracles. Keep dreaming. Enjoy the new energy of the year. Thank you all for joining me. Shabbat Shalom. Take care. Bye.